It feels like we've been hearing rumors about a God of War spin-off game ever since God of War Ragnarok released. But as time has passed, these rumors have increased in weirdness. First, it was just assumed that PlayStation would eventually begin working on an Atreus spin-off game. Then we heard from insiders that it would actually be a prequel game set in Greece where you would play as a younger Kratos. And now, just a couple of days ago, this rumor got even weirder. According to two respected gaming insiders, the prequel spin-off game is actually a lot smaller in scale than we anticipated. This game, if the rumors are true, won't look like the modern God of War games we're so accustomed to. They won't even look like the classic games in the series with their fixed camera angles. According to the rumors, this game will be a 2D Metroidvania, similar to games like Hollow Knight and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. The news of this rumor has generated a lot of opinions from God of War fans, with some loving the idea and others absolutely hating it. I am on the camp that thinks this is a great idea, and it isn't just because I like Metroidvania games, but also because the AAA industry needs to change how it currently operates or it will die. It's no secret that making these types of games has gotten a lot harder and more expensive than ever before, with some developers even struggling to break even after winning tons of awards. Developers have long recognized the need to create smaller and more cost-effective titles to survive. This is why PlayStation tried to make a push for live service games. The truth is that these games aren't that expensive to make compared to games like The Last of Us or God of War Ragnarok. And when done right, they can go on to make even more revenue than these expensive single-player games. However, what PlayStation failed to understand about the live service model is that players aren't willing to drop their favorite live service game for a new one that does essentially the same thing. You have to be truly unique to capture a slice of this pie. And on this front, PlayStation, with the exception of Helldivers 2, has greatly failed. Concord was dead on arrival, The Last of Us Factions was cancelled, Fairgame seems to be Concord all over again, Marathon might get cancelled or at the very least delayed. Not even a live service game with the name God of War was able to survive. But just because this push for live service games failed, it doesn't mean that AAA games don't have a problem anymore. They are still very expensive and risky to make, which is why I think PlayStation will now start pushing for smaller single-player titles. You know, the thing that made them famous to begin with. We've already seen this with the Horizon series, as it recently received a very odd spin-off LEGO game, which, to be fair, was also a flop. But I mean, I don't know whose idea this was. I don't understand the connection between the Horizon series and the LEGO one. Their spirit for making a smaller project is commendable, but their execution could have been better with this one. And people are now saying something similar with the rumored God of War Metroidvania. Many fans can't imagine a God of War from a 2D perspective, which I can understand as the series has always used a 3D perspective. But I think this line of argument is overly negative with some fans. I don't think anyone is suggesting that from now on God of War games will be 2D Metroidvanias. Fans don't want this, and I don't think Santa Monica does either. The mainline God of War games will always be 3D action games. But that doesn't mean that the spin-off games can change the formula a bit, so long as it's not something too drastic like making a God of War game into a card game, or, you know, a LEGO game. That's why I don't understand why so many fans are against the idea of this spin-off game being a Metroidvania. Games like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown have proven that you can make a fast-paced combat system with great bosses in a 2D environment. A Metroidvania game also justifies the idea of loot, something new God of War fans live for. And on top of that, you have two God of War directors who regard Castlevania Symphony of the Night as one of the best games ever made. Which should tell you that if Santa Monica is overseeing this spin-off project, they're not doing it because they have to, but because they love this genre. If you still don't think the Metroidvania formula could work for God of War, my best suggestion is to try out some of them. Of course, I'd recommend Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown due to its similarity to God of War's combat and setting. And I also recommend Hollow Knight because, well, I think this is the best Metroidvania game ever made. But now, we need to put that aside and talk about what I think you guys care about the most. The story. Because the rumor of this spin-off game say that this God of War game will be set in Greece once again, where we'll play as a younger Kratos. And I think this might be the strongest point of argument for the people who don't want this rumor to be true. Because is this story truly needed? God of War has already had many prequel stories about Kratos. Is another one really necessary? I think when we look at Kratos as a character, the answer is a resounding no. With Valhalla, we've seen Kratos come to a full understanding of his past self. I don't think another prequel game can add anything else to his arc. His arc is already completed. However, there is still one mystery from the Greek saga that, well, remains a mystery. I'm talking about God of War Betrayal, a God of War mobile game that was released back in 2007. The director of this game has recently said that God of War Betrayal was the first game in a trilogy of God of War mobile games, where the trilogy would conclude with Kratos having to choose between saving his family or killing his evil brother, Deimos. a story that David Jaffe teased back in the first game. But as you all know, this mobile trilogy was eventually cancelled, and instead many of his ideas went to other games like Chains of Olympus, where Kratos is forced to choose between staying with his daughter or stopping Persephone from destroying the world, a similar ending to the one found in the cancelled mobile trilogy. This in itself is fine, games get cancelled all the time. But the issue with Deimos became more complicated years later when Santa Monica and Ready Dawn released Ghost of Sparta, a game that officially introduced Deimos to the God of War series. But there's a problem with this, because God of War Betrayal is still considered canon by many God of War devs, and obviously so is Ghost of Sparta. But here's the rub. The assassin from God of War Betrayal is Deimos, but because Ghost of Sparta is also canon, we can't say that the assassin is Deimos because Deimos dies in Ghost of Sparta, a game that canonically takes place before the events of God of War Betrayal. So now that leaves us with the mystery of who the assassin is. Originally it was going to be Deimos, but this now has to be retconned, unless they say something like they brought Deimos back to life after the end of Ghost of Sparta, in which case I would still say this is a retcon. But the point is, I think this might be an element of what the story for the rumored Metroidvania game could be about, the mystery of the assassin. Now, I am aware of another rumor that says that Deimos will also play a part in this story, but I don't think this rumor has been corroborated by the two credible leakers, so I'm leaving it completely out of my calculations because if it's true, then I really don't know what this game's story will be about. For now, I'm sticking to the base rumor that this game will take place back in Greece with a younger Kratos. And if that's the case, the best time period to set this game will be after the events of God of War Betrayal. That way we can get an answer to the biggest mystery left in the Greek saga, the identity of the assassin. But maybe it's best if we forget about this rumor for the time being. Sure, this rumor is being corroborated by two pretty reliable gaming insiders, but at the time, that's just what it is, a rumor. The truth is that if this game is real, it most likely began development after Concord's release. And even though it's a Metroidvania, it will still take time to develop. I mean, just look at the situation with Silksong. So again, if it's real, this game will probably be released in late 2025 or early 2026. In the meantime, just play some Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. And while you're at it, watch some of my videos on it. You might even get a taste for the lore. But with that said, let me know what you think about this rumored God of War Metroidvania game. This will be the last time I talk about it until I hear more official news, but I definitely want to hear your thoughts on it. Are you excited for it, or do you still think this is a bad idea? Also, let me know what you think this story should be about. Like I always say, whatever your thoughts and theories are, make sure to leave them in the comments section below. Now I would like to thank all of my YouTube and Patreon members for supporting the channel monthly. I would also like to thank everyone who likes and shares my videos. It may not seem like much, but trust me, it really does help. And with that said, thanks for watching. And remember, go forth in the name of Olympus.